Hi everyone, today is Thursday. We're going to continue reading our historical fiction story, Below Deck, a Titanic Story. Yesterday, chapter 3 ended with Grace having fun in the third class. It's the fourth night of the voyage or trip the Titanic is making from Europe across the Atlantic Ocean to the United States of America. Chapter 3 ends with all of a sudden a loud noise. Grace gets bumped, and then a scraping noise. Let's continue reading to see what happens next. Chapter 4. It was just before midnight. The party goers headed up through the hallways toward the main deck, and Grace followed them. A lot of other people from the first and second class decks were doing the same. On the main deck, a large crowd was quickly gathering by the rail. The night air was freezing, and the stars glittering in the dark sky above them. The sea was strangely calm, and everybody was looking up at something white and glittery and enormous, or huge, drifting past the stationary ship. Grace had never seen anything like it. "It's an iceberg!" one man yelled. "We've hit an iceberg, and we're going to sink!" People in the crowd looked around, worried, and started to mutter to each other. Surely this man was talking nonsense. Suddenly, the bow of the ship lurched downward with a terrible grinding noise. Moments later, one of the crew cried out that the captain had given the order to lower the lifeboats. They were going to abandon ship. So an iceberg is a large piece of ice in the middle of the ocean. So the Titanic, the greatest ship, hit the iceberg and is now going to sink. The captain, or the boss of the boat, is saying that everyone needs to leave the ship. Grace felt very scared and alone. She thought of Auntie Nora, and tears filled her eyes. She couldn't believe the Titanic was sinking. The newspapers had said that the ship was unsinkable. But now lifeboats were splashing down into the sea. As Grace stood motionless in the chaos around her, word spread that there weren't enough lifeboats for everybody on board, and people started to panic. Soon there was a lot of yelling and screaming and pushing and shoving, but Grace couldn't leave the ship without Uncle Patrick's address or Auntie Nora's photograph. She had to go back to the cabin for her suitcase before trying to find a place on a lifeboat. So the Titanic, we know, is a very, very large ship. There are lifeboats, or these tiny boats that people can go on. When Grace reached the staircases leading down to the third-class decks, she found they had been closed off. She had to go a different way, but soon she was lost inside the ship's maze of hallways. "Come on, think," she whispered to herself. "Now where do I go?" Just then the floor shook beneath Grace's feet, and the ship groaned and creaked around her. The lights flickered above her. Tears streamed down Grace's cheeks as she realized she would have to leave her belongings behind and return to the main deck. She was running out of time, and she had never felt so alone. She pulled herself together, wiped her eyes on her sleeve, and strode quickly toward the stairs. Getting back to the main deck wasn't easy, though. All the hallways were at steep angles now, and in some places Grace had to pull herself along the wall as if she were climbing a mountain. The lights were flickering even more, and everywhere seemed eerily empty. At last, she spotted someone ahead of her. A girl. As Grace got closer to her, she realized it was Catherine, the girl who had gotten her in trouble. Their eyes met, and Grace knew Catherine recognized her too. Catherine ran up to Grace and grabbed her arm, sobbing or crying uncontrollably. "Please, you have to help me," said Catherine, her voice cracking. "I got separated from my parents and I'm lost. I don't know what to do." "Let go of me," Grace snapped. She pulled her arm free. "Why should I help you after what you did to me?" "You must be joking." Grace turned away from her. "I'm sorry," Catherine was screaming. "Don't leave me." Grace stopped with her back to Catherine and closed her eyes. She remembered what Auntie Nora had said. "You're too nice for your own good sometimes." That was true, but Grace also knew it would be wrong to leave Catherine here alone. She sighed and turned back. All of a sudden, the lights went out, plunging them into the darkness. So at this point, the Titanic is sinking. Catherine and Grace meet up, lost, trying to get back to the main deck of the ship. What do you think is going to happen next?